Kumlen and Ablat Gemara. We are doing the Zeis Chanukah Gemara of Monday, and also we're doing Tuesday's Gemara. We're up to the Gemara that Samach Beis Amid Beis, which is Monday's Gemara, and we begin with the Amar Rabbah. So the last thing we learned was that Talmud Chacham is is exempt from taxes. So how far do we go? So Amar Rabbah says we'll go a step further. Shani Leila Turban Rabbana is permitted for a rabbi, the Meimar, to say, Avda de Noira Anna, I work for a particular church. There's an argument there is showing whether you're actually working directly for the church, which is what around others say, or others say, some Rishonim say, and others say that I am working for clergy. I'm not working directly for the church, I'm working for the clergy, and as a result, La Yehivna Karga, I won't have to pay taxes because clergy don't pay taxes. Just like in Australia. And why are you permitted to do that? Because the din is you're not allowed to say that you are a goy in order to save yourself. In fact, there's a sefer called Vayagid Moshe, which is written on Pesach, a fantastic sefer. And in the Hagdama there it writes that the author of the sefer was 18 years old when he wrote it, and then the war broke out. He had blonde hair and blue eyes. When he was stopped in the streets of Germany, and they asked him if he was Jewish, if he would have said that he wasn't, they would have accepted it straight away. But he told his brother that I would never say that I'm not a Yid, because it says, you're not allowed to say that you're a Goy, even though he was a question of saving his life. And unfortunately, he perished in the camps. But you're allowed to say this because what you're trying to do is only to avoid paying taxes. And because you concluded your sentence saying, I'm not paying taxes, everyone knows exactly what you're trying to do. All you're trying to do is chase the lion away from yourself. And big machlekes are shining. If it's only a Talmud Chacham who can do that, because he won't take advantage and go down the slippery slope. Or the Ran learns even a Talmud Chacham. A Talmud Chacham is a greater Chil Hashem walking around saying you work for a church. Everybody else for sure they can do that. Even Talmud Chacham can, because we know exactly what you're saying. Especially the God of fire. Fire can also be Lahavdil the Eibishtik. Hashem is a thing of fire. But then, based on this, Tosfos comes along and says, and this is a big controversy, and I'm constantly asked questions. Tosfos says over here, Mikan. From here, we learn out that, I'll just quote what Tosfos says here. We learn out it is forbidden to lend money to a church in order for them to build a church. Or to furnish them or lend money that they should be able to buy things for the church, surely to sell them items that they use for the service, like books, Bibles, and so on. That's what Tosfos said. And then Shmuel is a big machlekes how far we take that you're not allowed to do. Then the Gemara continues. Rav Ashi had a forest. He sold the wood from the forest directly to a church. How can you sell to a church? Because of you, people now will pray in the church, and Goyim are not allowed to pray to Avodah Zarah. Christianity, they believe in Trinity, which is Avodah Zarah. And you are praying to them, you're enabling them to do, and that's Lifnei Ivi. You're not allowed to place a stomach block before the blind. Most of the wood that I'm selling to them, they're not going to use for service, they're going to use for other things. So from here, the Gemara, you see that if you're helping a church to make a catering hall, for example, then you'll be allowed to. It's only if it's directly involved in their service and their religion. What is a big controversy here is actually the Rosh and Tosfos all the way in the beginning of Masechta Shabbos of Gimel, and also in Avodah Zarah Daf Vav, if I remember correctly, where we have the concept called Lifnei Iver, and then a corollary of that is called Messiah. Lifnei Iver means that you couldn't do it without my help. I gave it to you, like the famous example of Mar Psachim, two people on two sides of the river, the Nazir asked you for wine. But what happens, you could have obtained it for yourself, but I gave it to you anyway. So what I'm doing is I'm a Messiah. They're an Aveira in that. The Mordechai holds is no Aveira, and many Rishonim hold there is an Aveira. And the question is, so how do you understand this Gemara here? The Gemara seems to be saying the only reason why you're allowed to give them wood is because they're going to use it for ordinary purposes. Otherwise, you're not allowed to. But wood they can buy anywhere. So there's no Lifnei Iver. If anything, I'm just being Messiah. Doesn't that prove there's an Aveira Messiah from here? Now, so and even the in the question of Messiah, there are three opinions brought down to Shulchan Aruch, Shach, Yehuda, Ramah, whether there is that Messiah B'chlal is Asr, and if it's Asr, is it only to Yidden or even to Goy? The question is, the Isam Messiah, is that an extension of neighbor? I shouldn't give it to you, but if you can take it yourself and I give it to you, it's an extension of neighbor. Or is the problem of Messiah like you should reprimand your brothers, and if that's the case, then it's only for Yidden, doesn't apply to Goyim? Or and what about a Yisrael Mummer, a Yid who will do Daber regardless? Is there an Isra Messiah there at all? And the way they deal with it, the Mordechai deals with here is, we'll say, you're talking about a situation where there is no other wood available, and the only Jewish, the only store that you're able to buy wood is by this Jew. Therefore, it's Lifnei Iver, not Messiah. Next Mishnah. First makes an other kotzer until the time of the harvest. What does that mean? It means the harvest of wheat. Ad sheyaschalom litzer tzir chitin. It means the time of wheat, because generally when you say the word harvest, harvest means wheat, because that's the predominant food. I would like to say not barley. But the truth of the matter is, we also have to look at the place, because in this place they don't have wheat, or just this place barley is much more popular. So he would say, okay, till the harvest, I'm not going to drink wine, or I'm not going to eat meat. Till the harvest means the harvest of barley, because that's what they usually do. And also harvest, every place is different. So if he made the vow on a mountain, Bahar, then we look at the mountain where the harvest begins there. Doesn't matter where you find yourself afterwards. In the valley, if he says until the rain, it means until, if he says until the rain, or until the rain is already happening, means until the second rain comes down. We had in Martinus that there are three rains, and rains are called revia because it sits in the ground and saturates it like it's revia, impregnates it. So therefore it's called revia. And we learned out three revias. The first one, the second one, the third one. We had three opinions. We'll have more later as well, when exactly it starts. And one of them says Zayin Cheshvan, and that's why we say we in Israel they say from then they wait for the last people to go home. We actually in Chutz La'aretz we do 60 days afterwards when the Tkufa begins, like the people in Bavel, and the Rosh wonders why we follow the people in Bavel, but we do. And so when he says till the rain, it goes till the second drop of rain comes down. Rav Shimon Bill said, you don't have to wait for the rain itself. If the season, we know the dates, as we'll see more later. When the date of the second thing of rain happens, that's when the fast is, that's when your neder is over. If you say, till the rain stops, holds the end of this, at the Pesach, that's when the season is over. Says the Gemara. Tanya, we learned, it's big Galil. He was in Galil when he did that. And then he went down to the valleys. Even though the time for picking your the figs and all that already arrived in the valleys. But since you made the neder when Galil, you have to wait for the time to arrive in Galil. Also, Shigia Kai is big Galil till it comes a time in Galil itself. Adak Shamim till the rain. Achiyik Shamim. Agitated the Vishne means the second drop of rain. Rashbag says we don't need the actual rain, even with the date is enough. Amar Rab Zayda says their whole argument is the Amar he says ad hakshamim. He says the rains, so he's saying it in plural. Avo, but if he says ad hageshem, if he says a singular until the rain, it means ad zman kshamim come by. In other words, the Rabbanan said it has to rain. So Rab Zayda says, when did the Rabbanan argue Shimon Lil? He says the word shamim, but if he just says the word geshem, then it's different. How is it different? So there's a machlekes between the Rishonim and the Ram. Most Rishonim learned because he said it in singular. He said, you say shamim in plural, it means the second season because it's already shamim plural, the second season, and when it actually rains. But according to, if you say it only singular, Geshem is one rain, that's the first rain, and you don't even have to wait for the rain. There, as soon as the season comes along, your neder ends. It's only when you say Kshamim, because you literally change from Geshem to Kshamim, that we say it's a second batch of rain, and when it actually rains. That's how most Rishonim learn. The Ran says no. In both cases, as a second batch. The question is only whether that the Rabbanan will agree to Rav Shimon Gamliel that if we say Geshem, it means the season and not when the rain actually happens. So the Gemara makes a last question. It says, we're asking a question of data. It says in Abraisa, what's the seasons of rain? The first rains, according to this opinion, is Begimel. The third day of Chesh. Rain is the middle. Rain is Beshiva. The second batch is the 7th day, 4 days later. And Afela, the latest rain is Be'esim Shlosh the 23rd. And if it doesn't rain by the third time, that's when the Yechidim and Tamid and Chachamim start fasting. There's a drought coming. Rabbi Yehuda says no. Beshiva, the 7th day of Cheshvan, is the first crop. Of Beshiva, also 17th, the second. Uve'esim Shlosh is the third. And Rabbi Yossi disagrees. He says Beshiva, also the 17th day of Cheshvan is the first. Uve'esim Shlosh, 23rd is the second. Uve'chodesh Kislev, and the month of Kislev is the third. That the individuals, the Tamid and Chachamim, do not begin fasting because there's a drought, but we don't force everybody to fast. Initially, just the Tamid and Chachamim. We say there, okay, why do we need to know that there are 3 seasons for rain or 3 batches? I need to know the first batch to show. That's when we start saying the Saint Talmud Baruch in Israel. So we need to know whether it's the 7th day of Cheshvan or the 2 other days. I need to know the third one. When do Tamid and Chachamim start fasting because there's a drought? Why do we need the Mai? What do I need to know the second batch? What's the difference? Avzeda said, Avzeda says if you're making a neder, I need to know the date of the second batch. So it's the date that we're talking about. And right, and Rav Shimon holds that we look at the date. And we don't make a difference here at all between Geshem and Kshamim. And then we see that Shimon says to the rabbi, that according to who does this go? Shimon turns around to the rabbi and says, Gshamim shiyodu shiva yamim. He says, if rain comes down 7 consecutive days, you agree with me that you agree with me that if it rains the whole time, it never stopped. You're not going to say, oh, I got to wait for another rain to come. You're going to agree with me that in this case, it's the date that counts. Now, if you're going to tell me that when you say the word Geshem, now most people just say Geshem. You tell me that the word Geshem, even the rabbis are made, we look at the date. So what's Rav Shimon saying? Oh, you concede to me that if it rains 7 consecutive days, which is this, Kamak Rav Yossi holds that the 17th and 23rd. So the 17th is the first batch, and the 23rd is the second. And if it rains 7 consecutive days, it's considered the first. And the second, you're going to concede to me. Of course, you concede to me. Not because of that. It's because you said the word Geshem. If it didn't rain, Geshem you'll agree according to. The Rabbanan actually agree that it's not the rain; it's the rain. It's not the rain itself. It's the season, the date. So who told you we said the word Geshem? Who many said the word Sham? Then we continue. I will not drink this wine for a year. I will not drink this wine this shana for a year. And then he said, what's considered the year? Is I will not taste this food for a year. And it's Abra Hashana also Bob. He said the year, it means entire year, including an Ibra of happy Ibra, a leap year. This Abra Hashana also Bob Ubi Ibura, also that extra month. Ad Rosh Oder. The general question is, which month is the leap month and which month is the real month? Is the first Adar the real month? I mean, logically it should be. You count the normal 12 months and you add another Adar afterwards. Or do we say no, that the first Adar is actually the extra month and the second Adar is the general Adar? And because the first month is 30 days and the month that we add should be a full month, 30 days. So the first month is the addition and the second month is the general. And one of the proofs is Purim is on the second month. So when you say Ad Rosh Adar, which Adar do you mean? Ad Rosh Adar Rishon, it means the beginning of the first Adar. If you say Soif Adar, the end of Adar, it means Ad Soif Adar Rishon. So our Mishnah holds that Stam Adar is Adar Rishon, not Adar Sheni. Almost don't the Adar, the Gemara Rishon, it's clear that our Mishnah holds that when you say the word Adar, you always mean the first Adar. If you didn't specify first and second, you mean the first Adar. Lema, let us say that since Rabbi Yehudi, our Mishnah follows Rabbi Yehuda rather than Rabbi Meir. What's the story? The time we learned Adar Rishon, according to Rabbi Meir, if you want to say I want this to happen the first Adar, Kaisav Adar Rishon, you got to specify Adar Rishon, Adar Sheni. But if you want the second Adar, then Kaisav Adar Stam. Just write the word Adar. These words Rabbi Meir. Rabbi Yehuda says Other Harishan Kaisus Tam. First other is Tam. Other Sheni, you have to write Tinyi in the second other. Omar Bais Labaya, Filter Rameir, Kashes Rameir. Even Rameir, who says that generally other Stam is the second other. If you know that the beginning of the year that there's an Ibiyar, then when you say other Stam, you meant the second other. But if you did not know that it's going to be a leap year, then other Stam is the first other. So our Mishnah says it's talking about the first other. It's talking about a case where you didn't know when you made it in Rosh Hashanah, you had no idea that this year is going to be a leap year. So therefore, when you said it, obviously you only thought it'd be one other. You meant that first other. Says the Gemara. About Tanya, and I'll prove it to you from a Bryce. It says in the following Bryce, Adrosh Chodesh Adar, Tilosh Chodesh Adar means Adrosh Chodesh Adar Rishon means the first other. You said Stam Adar means the first other. But Im Haisa Shana Beber is a leap year, and you say Stam Adar, Adrosh Chodesh Adar Sheni. Stam Adar is Adar Sheni. Now what's going on here? If the Stam Adar is Adar Sheni, how come the beginning it says that Stam Adar is Adar Rishon? Beklal the Reisha Laba Merza Skinnen. And the Reisha therefore must be talking about a normal year. But how can that be? It says clearly first other. I mean, there was also a leap year. So it's a contradiction. First you tell me a leap year Stam Adar is the first month, and then you tell me a leap year Stam Adar is the second month. Which one is it? Shma Mina must be if you knew it would be an Ibiyar, then you say Stam Adar, you meant the second month. If you didn't know it would be an Ibiyar, you say Stam Adar, it means the first month. Now this is actually Negei Halacha, Big Machlekes Rishonim, who we paskin like the Rambam paskins like Rab Meir, and therefore Stam Adar is Adar Sheni, and others paskin like Rab Yehuda, Stam Adar Rishon, and this has many ramifications. For example, a bar mitzvah. If somebody's born another Stam Adar, then when the bar mitzvah year comes along, it's a leap year. Which other is the bar mitzvah, first or second? What about when it comes to yard site? Which is the yard site? And fascinating is that yard site we do differently than we do bar mitzvah. Some people are different machmed by yard site, they do both months, because it's very convoluted. Mishnah. Rabbi Yehuda says, I will not drink wine until Pesach. And before we learned that Pesach means till the end of Pesach. But here we're talking about wine. So some people say, this Mishnah actually argues on before. Others say no, that before we're talking about meat to Pesach is till the end of Pesach. But here we're talking about wine, and since the first night you must drink arba kaises, surely you meant to finish before arba kaises. Like in this case, he definitely means beginning of Pesach. If he says ad shosh as long as people drink wine, which obviously people drink wine on Pesach, I didn't want to ban myself from me drinking wine on Pesach. But he says I will not eat meat. Is not forbidden until right before the night of the fast. We all eat meat at Yom Kippur in the afternoon. So in fact, Rav said, whoever eats Erev Yom Kippur is as if he fasted 2 days. So it's a wonderful thing to eat, and therefore you definitely didn't want to preclude that. So when you said till Yom Kippur, you didn't mean Yom Kippur, you meant till the meal before Yom Kippur. The Magen Avraham brings from here a raya that in the morning you eat milchiks. The first so they eat milchiks for parav and not fleishiks. And the proof is, otherwise, why do we say that the meal before Yom Kippur? Say that he meant until the meal before the meal before Yom Kippur, till the morning, because you have 2 meals, and both meals should be fleishiks. So the Magen Avraham brings a proof from here. It's only the second meal has to be fleishiks. Big discussion on that. Rabbi Yossi the son of Yehuda says, "Koinim shum shani time." Following that logic, and he goes a bit further. Even just garlic, it's only a minig. It's not like wine on Pesach, which is it's a must. It's not like eating a meal at Yom Tov, which is it's a must. Eating garlic is not common of Ezra, but it's a minig. Achdei Shabbos till Shabbos ain't also allowed later Shabbos. It means till Friday night. You have to use them because that's when you eat garlic. Meant if the minig when there's a minig to eat garlic, he didn't want to be precluded from that. He wanted to join as well. Guys, has this friend. We had this before. I will have any benefit from you. If you don't come to me and take for your son kur echad shel chitin, I want you to take 1 kur, a measure of 30 saw of wheat, and 2 barrels of wine. He doesn't have to, unless another person does not come to take for his son. I can still have enough from him because that's very easy to. I don't have to go to a rav to a no-minded why. I can never really mention. I don't need a chach. You can say very simply, the only reason why you want to give me is to honor me. It's my covenant, not to really take from you. I don't want to take from you. I want to give you. I don't want to be like a schnorr. I want you, if you want to give me, I'll give you. So since I did it for my covenant, I didn't really mean it as a neder. I can therefore go ahead and eat from you. Guys, as a friend, I don't want you to have any benefit from me. If you don't come and give to my son, you want me to allow you to come benefit from me. I want you to give my son a present. Now, Meir says, Asur, Achit. In this case, this is much more serious, and you have to give it. Otherwise, he can't have any benefit from you if he doesn't give your sons. Chacham say no. Avzei, even here, Yochel Lohafadid, he cannot know is that. Shaloy Api Chacham, I'm going to rabbis. The Yom will tell him, Harei Ani Kilis Kabalti. We introduce the concept, Ki Ilis Kabalti. You can say, look, it's my son. We're talking about children that live by you, so you have to feed them. I will treat it as if you gave me. I am Moichel. And Moichel doesn't mean that you don't have to give it to me. Moichel means it's as if you gave it to me and I gave it back to you. So we actually fulfilled the neder. Ki'ilu niskabalti. That's what it is. Somebody was pressing, an uncle was pressing, I want you to marry my daughter, your niece. And we hadn't worried, it's a mitzvah to marry your niece. And he said, I don't want to marry your niece. And was pestering. Finally made a neder. I don't want my niece, your daughter, to ever have any hana from me. This way, in other words, stop bothering me. Likewise, I'm a guy, she's somebody divorced his wife, and she wants to stay with him. I make up, and she's losing it not to stay on, and he didn't have the strength to say no. Finally, he said, I make a neder that I don't want you to have any hana from me. Sometimes the circumstances come and define what he's saying. We had a few days ago that we look at the circumstances and we know exactly what he means, whether he meant wearing the or carrying, that material. Same thing here. He has no problem with this woman. He just doesn't want to live with her as a man and wife. So what he said, I don't want to have a yana, he meant as a man and wife, but to eat and drink, why not? Same thing with the niece. He didn't want to marry her. So all he really asked was living as a man, as a husband and wife. Only for living as a married life. What happens? He was losing him to eat by him. Omar, he said, let's say the guy was losing him, please come to my house to eat, please come to my house to eat, and he didn't want to go to him. So finally he got fed up and he says, I will asa your house that I will ever walk into, or tip it, even a drop of water to come to my lips. I'm allowed to walk into the house, I'm allowed to drink the cold water. Why? All I meant was I don't want to eat a meal with you, and you're pestering me, so I made this neder. I can definitely walk into the, even I use the words, I won't walk into your house, I won't drink any water. I'm allowed to walk in, I'm allowed to drink water. I didn't mean that. I just meant don't nudge me. So now the question is, can I at least go in to eat a meal, or do I have to be matzah neder? Big machlek is a shaynim. The Ran and many others learn that part of the neder states, I cannot eat by you. But the Rosh says no, that not only can I enter or take a drink of water, but I can even sit and have a meal. Why? Because I never said I won't eat a meal. All I said was I won't walk in and I won't take a drink. And you're telling me that's not a real neder, because I didn't really mean it. What I meant was eating and drinking, but I never said that. Meaning without saying is just like saying without meaning. And the words didn't encapsulate it. On the other hand, others say, yes, the neder still remains intact. And that finishes the sugya, the Gemara for